8-year-old Jake Morrison pressed his small body against the cold stone wall of the old well. His heart beat so fast he thought it might break. The smell of burning wood and melted metal filled the air around him. He could hear the strange voices of the alien soldiers as they walked through what was left of his home. The boy pulled his knees closer to his chest. His clothes were torn and dirty. There was a cut on his forehead that had stopped bleeding, but it still hurt. Jake tried not to think about what happened to his parents. He tried not to remember the sounds he heard when the big ships came down from the sky. It had been 3 days since the attack started. Jake had been hiding in different places around the farm, first behind the old tractor, then in the barn, and now by the well. He had not eaten anything except some old apples he found on the ground. His mouth was dry and his stomach hurt from being empty. The voices were getting closer. Jake held his breath. He knew the aliens were looking for any humans who might still be alive. He had seen what they did to the people they found. The boy closed his eyes tight and wished he could disappear. Heavy footsteps walked past the well. Jake waited until he could not hear them anymore. Then he waited some more. When everything was quiet, he slowly looked over the edge of the stone wall. The farm that had been his home for all 8 years of his life was gone. The house where his mother made breakfast every morning was just black pieces of wood. The barn, where his father kept the animals, was a pile of twisted metal. Even the big tree where Jake liked to climb was cut down and burned. Jake started to cry, but no tears came out. He was too tired and scared to cry anymore. He just sat back down in his hiding place and stared at his dirty hands. That was when he heard a different kind of footstep. This one was softer, more careful. Jake looked up and saw something that made him freeze with fear. An alien was standing right above him, looking down into the well. But this alien was different from the soldiers he had been hiding from. This one was smaller and did not wear the black armor like the others. The alien had blue skin that looked like it was covered in tiny scales. Its eyes were big and golden, like the sun. Long silver hair fell down around its shoulders. Jake tried to make himself smaller, but there was nowhere to go. He was trapped. The alien said something in a language Jake did not understand. The voice was soft, not mean like the soldiers. Jake still did not move. He was too scared. The alien tried again, this time in broken English. "You hurt?" Jake stared up at the creature. He did not know what to say. Was this a trick? Were the alien soldiers hiding nearby? The alien looked around, then climbed down into the well. Jake pushed himself against the wall as hard as he could, but the alien did not try to grab him. Instead, it sat down on the other side of the small space. "I am Zarathul," the alien said slowly. "I not hurt you." Jake still said nothing. He watched as Zarathul reached into a small bag and pulled out something that looked like bread. She broke it in half and held one piece out to him. "Eat," she said. "You hungry?" Jake's stomach made a loud noise. He was so hungry it hurt, but he was still too afraid to take the food. Zarathul ate a small piece of her half to show him it was safe. Then she set his piece on the ground between them and moved back. Jake waited a long time before he reached for the food. When he finally took a bite, it was the best thing he had ever tasted. It was sweet and filled his empty stomach with warmth. "What's your name?" Zarathul asked while he ate. "Jake," he whispered. It was the first word he had said in 3 days. "Jake," she repeated, trying to say it the right way. "You alone?" Jake nodded. He could not talk about what happened to his family. Zarathul's golden eyes looked sad. She seemed to understand without Jake having to explain. She reached into her bag again and pulled out a small bottle of water. Jake drank it all in a few big gulps. "The soldiers," Jake whispered. "Are they coming back?" "No," Zarathul said. "They go away, looking for other humans in other places." "Why are you here?" Jake asked. Zarathul was quiet for a moment. She looked up at the sky, then back at Jake. Look at what soldiers do. My people, we want to know about human places, about your kind." "Are you going to take me away?" Jake asked. I cannot, Zarathul said, and she looked sad again. My people, they have rules. We not supposed to help humans, but... She stopped talking and looked at Jake for a long time. The boy was so small and thin. His clothes were too big for him now. His eyes were full of fear and sadness that no child should ever have. But I cannot leave you here, she said finally. Zarathul stood up and looked over the edge of the well. She made some clicking sounds that Jake did not understand. A few minutes later, 2 other aliens appeared above them. These ones wore different clothes, not soldier armor. They talked to Zarathul in their own language. Jake could tell they were not happy about something. One of them pointed at Jake and said something that sounded angry. Zarathul said something back that sounded even more angry. Jake did not know what they were fighting about, but he could guess. After a long argument, the other aliens walked away. Zarathul climbed back down into the well. They say I cannot take you, she told Jake, but I have idea. She pulled out a small device that looked like a phone but was made of silver metal and blue glass. She pressed some buttons, and Jake heard her talking to someone far away. When she finished, she put the device back in her bag and looked at Jake. I know place, she said. Safe place. Neutral station where many different kinds of people live. They help you there. Find you new family, maybe. Jake did not want a new family. He wanted his old family back, but he knew that was impossible. Will you come with me, he asked. Zarathul shook her head. I cannot. But people there, they good people. They take care of you. She reached into her bag one more time and pulled out something that made Jake's eyes open wide. It was a small crystal that seemed to have light trapped inside it. The crystal was attached to a thin silver chain. This for you, Zarathul said, is memory stone of my people. You wear it and it help you remember courage when darkness comes. If we ever meet again, I know you by this. She put the chain around Jake's neck. The crystal felt warm against his chest. Promise me something, Zarathul said, looking right into Jake's eyes. Promise you will be strong. Promise you will grow up to help other people like I help you today. Jake touched the crystal and nodded. I promise. Zarathul smiled. It was the first time Jake had seen anyone smile in 3 days. Even though she was an alien, even though her skin was blue and her eyes were gold, her smile made him feel safe. Good, she said. Now we go. Ship will be here soon. Jake stood up on shaky legs. He was still scared, but for the first time since the attack, he felt like maybe everything would be okay. As they climbed out of the well together, Jake looked back one more time at the ruins of his home. Then he looked at the alien princess, who had chosen to save him when she could have walked away. He touched the warm crystal on his chest and made a promise to himself. Someday, when he was big enough and strong enough, he would help other people too, just like she was helping him now. The sound of engines filled the air as a small ship landed nearby. Jake took a deep breath and walked toward his new future, the memory stone glowing softly against his heart. Jake Morrison looked at himself in the mirror of his small room on the military base. He was 23 years old now, but sometimes he still felt like that scared 8-year-old boy hiding by the well. The crystal pendant still hung around his neck just like it had every day for the past 15 years. He touched the warm stone and remembered the alien princess who had saved his life. Zarathul. He still said her name sometimes when he was alone, wondering if she was still alive somewhere among the stars. A loud knock on his door broke his thoughts. Jake, time to go, came a voice from outside. Coming, Ryan, Jake called back. He grabbed his gear and opened the door to find his best friend Ryan Torres waiting for him. Ryan was a big man with dark hair and a smile that never seemed to go away. He was the best at blowing things up in the whole Terran Defense Corps. He was also the only person Jake trusted completely. Ready for another fun day of training? Ryan asked as they walked down the hall together. As ready as I'll ever be, Jake replied. What do you think they'll make us do today? Probably more of those impossible combat tests, Ryan said. You know how much the officers love to see us sweat. Jake and Ryan had been friends since they met at the military academy 5 years ago. They had been through everything together, Training, real battles, and long nights talking about their lives before the army. Ryan knew about Jake's past. He knew about the attack on New Haven and how an alien princess had saved him. Most people thought Jake was crazy when he told that story, but Ryan believed him. The crystal around Jake's neck was proof that something had happened that day. They walked into the briefing room where the rest of their team was waiting. Kate Sullivan was cleaning her rifle like she did every morning. She was the best shot Jake had ever seen and could hit a target from over a mile away. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail and her green eyes missed nothing. "Morning, boys," she said without looking up from her weapon. "Sleep well?" "Like babies," Ryan answered. "Ben already here?" "Right here," came a voice from the corner. Ben Carter was sitting at a table reading a medical book. He was their medic and had saved all their lives more times than they could count. Ben was quiet and serious, but had the gentlest hands when treating wounded soldiers. These three people were Jake's family. The neutral station where Princess Zarathul had taken him 15 years ago had been good to him. The people there had fed him, taught him, and helped him heal from losing his parents. But when Jake turned 18, he knew what he had to do. He had to keep his promise to the princess. He had to become strong enough to help other people. That was why he joined the Terran Defense Corps. In 5 years, he had become one of their best soldiers. Jake was not the biggest or the strongest, but he was smart. He could look at any battle and figure out the best way to win. His commanders said he had a gift for tactics. Jake thought it might have something to do with the crystal. Sometimes when he held it during difficult missions, he felt calmer and could think more clearly. He never told anyone about that. They would think he was even more crazy than they already did. "Attention," called a loud voice. Everyone in the room stood up straight as Commander Adams walked in. She was a tall woman with gray hair and scars on her face from old battles. She had been fighting aliens for longer than Jake had been alive. "Sit down," she said, and they all took their seats. "We have a new situation." Commander Adams pressed a button, and a big screen showed a map of space. Red dots marked enemy positions, while blue dots showed human and friendly alien territories. "Intelligence. Reports that the Korthak Empire is moving a massive fleet toward the Valdari sectors," she said. "Our sources say this could be the biggest military action we have seen in decades." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. The Valdari. That was Princess Zarathul's people. Were they in danger? "Now, normally we do not get involved in alien wars," Commander Adams continued. "But this time is different. Our experts think if the Korthak destroy the Valdari Empire, they will come for human space next." Kate raised her hand. "What do we know about the Valdari military, ma'am?" "They are tough fighters with good technology," the commander answered. "But the Korthak have more ships and more soldiers. The Valdari cannot win this fight alone." "So what are we going to do?" Ryan asked. Commander Adams smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Earth Command has decided to offer help to the Valdari Empire. We are going to send ships and soldiers to fight alongside them." The room was quiet. Fighting alongside aliens was new for the human military. Most of the time, humans fought against aliens, not with them. "Your team has been chosen for a special mission," the commander said, looking right at Jake. "You will be part of a diplomatic group that meets with Valdari leaders. We need to show them that human soldiers are worth having as allies." Jake's hand moved to the crystal around his neck. After 15 years, he might see Princess Zarathul again. He wondered if she would remember him. He wondered if she was still the kind person who had saved a scared little boy. "Morrison," Commander Adams said, "you will be in charge of the military escort. Captain Lisa Hamilton will handle the talking, but if shooting starts, everyone follows your orders." "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "Questions?" the commander asked. Ben raised his hand. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow morning. Pack for a long mission. We do not know how long this will take." As everyone filed out of the room, Ryan walked next to Jake. "You okay, buddy? You look like you saw a ghost." "I'm fine," Jake said, but he was not fine. His mind was full of memories and questions. What if Princess Zarathul was dead? What if she did not remember him? What if she remembered him but did not care anymore? That night, Jake sat alone in his room holding the crystal pendant. It was warm as always and seemed to glow a little brighter when he was upset or scared. "I kept my promise," he whispered to it. "I got strong. I learned to fight. I helped people, now just like you helped me." The crystal pulsed once like it was listening. Jake thought about all the battles he had fought in the past 5 years. The attack on the mining station at Alpha Centauri, where his quick thinking had saved 50 civilians. The defense of the colony on Kepler 62, where he had held off enemy forces for 6 hours until help arrived. The rescue mission on Europa Station, where he had led his team through a maze of damaged corridors to save trapped scientists. Every time he fought, he remembered what Princess Zarathul had told him. "Remember courage when darkness comes." The words had gotten him through every difficult moment. Jake's teammates had noticed that he was different from other soldiers. When things got really bad, when everyone else was scared or confused, Jake stayed calm. He could see solutions that others missed. He could inspire people to keep fighting when they wanted to give up. Ryan said Jake had a gift. Kate said he was just stubborn. Ben said Jake fought like he had nothing to lose and everything to protect. They were all right in their own way. The key? Next morning, Jake and his team boarded the UNS Valiant, a big cruiser that would take them to the meeting with the Valdari. Captain Lisa Hamilton was already on board, looking over diplomatic papers and trying to learn basic Valdari words. "Nervous?" Ryan asked as they watched Earth get smaller through the window. "A little," Jake admitted. "This is important. If we mess this up, a lot of people might die." "We won't mess up," Kate said confidently. "We never do." "Besides," Ben added, with a rare smile, "you're our secret weapon. You always know what to do." Jake smiled back, but inside he was thinking about Princess Zarathul. Would she be at the meeting? Would she be leading the Valdari military, like he was leading the human escort team? As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Jake held the crystal tight. Somewhere out there, the Korthak Empire was moving toward Valdari space with enough firepower to destroy worlds. Somewhere out there, the alien princess who had saved his life might be preparing to defend her people against impossible odds. Jake had spent 15 years getting ready for this moment. He was no longer the scared little boy who had hidden by the well. He was a soldier, a leader, a protector of the innocent. He was everything that Princess Zarathul had believed he could become. The crystal grew warm against his chest as the ship flew through space toward their destiny. Jake closed his eyes and made another promise, the same promise he had made as a child. He would be strong. He would help people. And when darkness came, he would remember courage. The adventure was just beginning. The space station looked like nothing Jake had ever seen before. It was huge, with curved metal walls that twisted and turned like a giant spiral shell. Ships from many different worlds were docked around it, their strange shapes and colors making it look like a floating city in the stars. "Welcome to Kepler Station," Captain Lisa Hamilton said as their ship moved closer to the docking bay. "This is neutral territory. Nobody fights here, no matter what wars are happening outside." Jake stood with his team at the window watching the strange station grow bigger. He could see other human ships, but there were also alien vessels he did not recognize. Some were small and fast. Others were massive and covered with what looked like living plants. "Look at that one," Ryan whispered, pointing to a ship that seemed to be made of crystal. "It's beautiful." "That's a Valdari ship," Captain Hamilton said. "Princess Zarathul should be on board." Jake's heart started beating faster. He touched the crystal around his neck and tried to stay calm. After 15 years, he was going to see her again. "Remember," Captain Hamilton continued, "we are here to make friends, not to show off. The Valdari are proud people. They think humans are primitive and weak. We need to prove them wrong without making them angry." The docking process took over an hour. Jake and his team checked their equipment one more time. They were not expecting a fight, but in space, you never knew what might happen. Finally, they walked through the airlock and into the station. The gravity felt strange, lighter than Earth normal. The air smelled like flowers and metal. Strange music played softly from hidden speakers. Other beings moved through the corridors around them. Jake saw creatures with 4 arms and purple skin, others that looked like walking trees, and some that seemed to be made of living light. But he did not see any Valdari yet. "The meeting room is this way," Captain Hamilton said, leading them down a long hallway. The walls were covered with artwork from dozens of different worlds. Some of it was beautiful, some of it was scary, and some of it Jake could not understand at all. They reached a large door marked with symbols in many languages. One of them was English. Diplomatic Conference Room 7. Captain Hamilton took a deep breath. "Ready?" Jake nodded, even though his stomach felt full of butterflies. His team fell in behind him as they walked into the room. The conference room was round, with a big table in the center. Windows showed the stars outside, making Jake feel small and far from home. Several aliens were already sitting at the table, but Jake only had eyes for one of them. Princess Zarathul sat across the room like a warrior queen. She was taller than Jake remembered, and her blue skin had new scars that told stories of battles fought and won. Her golden eyes were harder now, more careful. Her silver hair was braided with small metal beads that caught the light. She wore armor that looked like it was made from scales of some great beast. A sword hung at her side, and Jake could see the handles of other weapons hidden in her outfit. This was not the gentle alien who had shared her food with a scared little boy. This was a military commander who had learned to fight for her people's survival. Jake stared at her, but she did not seem to notice him. Her attention was on Captain Hamilton as the human diplomat took her seat at the table. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Captain Hamilton began. "The Terran Defense Corps is honored to offer assistance to the Valdari Empire in your time of need." One of the other Valdari, an older male with scars covering half his face, made a sound that might have been laughter. "Assistance? From humans? What could primitives like you possibly offer us?" Jake felt his teammates tense up beside him, but Captain Hamilton stayed calm. "We may not have your technology, but humans are resourceful. We learn fast, and we never give up." "Pretty words," Princess Zarathul said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was deeper than Jake remembered, but still had that musical quality that made him think of wind chimes. "But words do not stop Korthak battlecruisers." "Neither does pride," Captain Hamilton replied carefully. "The Korthak have more ships than you do. Fighting alone, you will lose." The scarred Valdari slammed his hand on the table. "We are Valdari. We do not lose. You do not win either," Captain Hamilton said quietly. "Not against these odds." The room went silent. Jake could feel the tension growing like a storm about to break. The Valdari were getting angry, and angry people did not make good deals. That was when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere, and a voice spoke in several languages over the station's communication system. Jake heard the English version. "Alert. Enemy ships approaching. All vessels prepare for possible combat." Everyone in the room stood up at once. Through the big windows, Jake could see explosions in the distance. Ships were moving fast, firing weapons that lit up space like deadly fireworks. "Korthak raiders," Princess Zarathul said, her hand moving to her sword. "They followed us here." "Impossible," said the scarred Valdari. "This is neutral space." "The Korthak do not care about neutral space," the princess replied. "They want me dead, and they will destroy this station to do it." Captain Hamilton looked at Jake. "What do you think?" Jake moved to the window and watched the battle outside. The Korthak ships were smaller than the Valdari vessels, but there were more of them. They moved like a pack of wolves, attacking from all sides at once. "We need to get everyone to the ships," Jake said. "This station cannot defend itself against that many raiders." "I agree," Princess Zarathul said. She looked at Jake for the first time, and he felt his breath catch. Her golden eyes met his brown ones across the room. For just a moment he thought he saw something familiar there, but then she looked away. "My ship has the best weapons," she continued. "We should coordinate our defense from there." "Good idea," Captain Hamilton said. "Let's go." They ran through the corridors of the station as more alarms blared around them. Other beings were running too, trying to get to their ships before the Korthak broke through the station's shields. Jake's team stayed close to the Valdari delegation as they moved. Ryan had pulled out his scanner and was checking for threats. Kate had her rifle ready, even though there was nothing to shoot at yet. Ben was helping an injured alien who had fallen during the panic. They reached the docking bay just as a huge explosion shook the entire station. Through the transparent walls, Jake could see that one of the Valdari ships had been hit. It was spinning slowly, pieces of it flying off into space. That was the Starfire, Princess Zarathul said, and Jake could hear the pain in her voice. 300 souls aboard. They boarded her ship, which was called the Crystal Wing. Inside, it was even more beautiful than outside. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. The air was warm and smelled like spring rain. Jake had never been on an alien ship before. Everything was designed for people taller than humans, so he had to stretch to reach some of the controls. But the technology was amazing. The screen showed more information than any human system he had ever seen. "Take us out," Princess Zarathul ordered her crew. "Full shields, weapons ready." The Crystal Wing undocked from the station and moved into the battle. Jake watched through the main screen as Korthak fighters swarmed around them like angry insects. "They are jamming our communications," reported a Valdari officer. "We cannot coordinate with the other ships." Jake looked at the tactical display and started to see patterns in the enemy movements. The Korthak were good fighters, but they were following a plan. If he could figure out that plan, maybe they could beat it. "Princess," he said, stepping forward. "May I?" She looked at him with surprise. "You are just a human escort. What could you possibly know about space combat?" "More than you might think," Jake replied. He moved to the tactical station and started pointing at the screen. "Look here. The Korthak are not attacking randomly. They are trying to split your ships apart so they can destroy them one by one." Princess Zarathul studied the display. "Continue. If we can get the Valdari ships to form a defensive circle around the station, we can protect it and force the Korthak to attack from only one direction. Then we can focus our firepower." The princess looked at Jake with new interest. "That is not a bad idea. But how do we tell the other ships without communications?" Jake smiled. "We show them." He turned to Captain Hamilton. "Can our ship transmit on multiple frequencies?" "Yes, but do it. Send the same message on every channel the Korthak are jamming. Eventually one will get through." As the human ship started broadcasting, Jake turned back to the tactical screen. Something was bothering him, but he could not figure out what. Then he saw it. "Princess, look at this." He pointed to a group of Korthak ships that were hanging back from the main fight. "Those ships are different, bigger. They are not fighting." Princess Zarathul studied the screen. "Command ships. They are controlling the attack from a safe distance. If we can take them out, the rest of the Korthak will lose coordination," Jake said. "But we need to get close and we need to do it fast." The princess looked at Jake for a long moment. Something was happening behind her golden eyes, like she was trying to remember something important. "What is your name, human soldier?" she asked quietly. "Jake Morrison, Your Highness." When he said his name, Jake saw Princess Zarathul's eyes go wide. Her hand moved to her throat like she was looking for. The battle was over, but the Crystal Wing was badly damaged. Smoke filled the corridors and emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Jake helped carry wounded Valdari soldiers to the medical bay while his team worked alongside alien crew members to fix broken systems. They had won, but it had been close. Jake's plan to attack the Korthak command ships had worked, but not before the raiders had destroyed 2 more Valdari vessels and damaged the space station badly. Jake was checking on Ben, who was helping treat the wounded, when Princess Zarathul appeared beside him. She had taken off her battle armor and now wore simple clothes that made her look younger, more like the person Jake remembered. "Walk with me," she said quietly. Jake followed her through the damaged corridors to a small room near the back of the ship. It was her private quarters, he realized. The walls were covered with weapons and pictures of other Valdari. Some looked like family photos. Others showed military ceremonies and battles. Princess Zarathul closed the door behind them and activated some kind of privacy field. Jake could feel the air change, becoming thick and quiet. "Sit," she said, pointing to a chair that was too big for him. She sat across from him in another chair, her golden eyes never leaving his face. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Jake could see the years in her face now, the battles and losses that had changed her from the young alien who had saved him. But underneath all of that, he could still see traces of the kind person who had shared her food with a scared little boy. "Show me the stone," she said finally. Jake pulled the crystal pendant from under his shirt. In the soft light of her quarters, it glowed with a gentle warmth. Princess Zarathul reached out and touched it carefully, like it might break. "I gave this to you 15 years ago," she said. "On New Haven, after the Korthak attacked your colony." "I know," Jake said. "I've worn it every day since then." "You were so small," the princess continued, her voice full of memory. "So frightened. Your family was gone, your home was destroyed. I should have walked away. My people, we have rules about interfering with other species." "Why didn't you?" Jake asked. "Why did you save me?" Princess Zarathul was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was soft and sad. "I had a brother. His name was Kethril, and he was younger than me by 3 years. He wanted to be a warrior like our father, but he was gentle and kind. He cared more about helping people than fighting them." She stood up and walked to one of the pictures on the wall. It showed her with a young male Valdari who had the same golden eyes and silver hair. "The Korthak killed him 2 years before I found you," she continued. "They attacked a medical ship he was serving on. He died trying to save wounded civilians." Jake felt his chest tighten. "I'm sorry. When I saw you hiding by that well, you reminded me of him. Small and scared, but with something brave in your eyes. I could not leave you there to die. It would have been like losing Kethril all over again." She turned back to Jake, and he could see tears in her golden eyes. "But I also gave you the memory stone for another reason." "What reason?" Jake asked. Princess Zarathul sat back down and held out her hand. "May I?" Jake lifted the chain over his head and gave her the crystal. She held it up to the light, and suddenly the room filled with images. They were like movies playing in the air around them. Jake saw himself as a child on the neutral station, learning to read and write. He saw himself training at the military academy, working hard to become strong. He saw all the battles he had fought, all the people he had saved, all the times he had chosen to help others instead of running away. "A memory stone does not just store memories," Princess Zarathul explained as the images played around them. "It learns from the person who wears it. It records their choices, their growth, their character." Jake watched himself leading his team through dangerous missions, making hard decisions, never giving up even when things looked hopeless. He saw himself the way others saw him, as a leader, a protector, someone who could be trusted when everything went wrong. "This is why I really gave it to you," the princess said. "My people believe that some souls have what we call the burning heart, a fire inside that cannot be put out. They never surrender, never stop fighting for what is right. I saw that fire in you when you were 8 years old." The images faded and the room returned to normal. Princess Zarathul handed the crystal back to Jake. "You kept your promise," she said. "You grew strong. You learned to help people. And you never let the darkness win." Jake put the chain back around his neck, feeling the familiar warmth of the crystal against his chest. "I had a good teacher." "No," Princess Zarathul said, shaking her head. "I only showed you a path. You chose to walk it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both thinking about the years that had passed and the strange way their lives had come together again. "What happens now?" Jake asked finally. Princess Zarathul's face became serious again. "Now we face reality. The Korthak attack today was just a test. They wanted to see how we would fight, what our weaknesses are. The real invasion is coming. How long do we have? Weeks? Maybe less. Our spies say the Korthak have gathered the largest fleet in their history. They want to destroy the Valdari Empire completely." Jake leaned forward. Then we need to work together, humans and Valdari, fighting as allies. Many of my people will. Not like that idea, the princess said. They think humans are primitive, weak. Today's battle helped, but it will not be enough to change minds that have been made up for centuries. Then we need to show them more, Jake said. Let me and my team fight alongside your soldiers. Let us prove that humans can be trusted. Princess Zarathul smiled, and for a moment she looked like the young alien who had saved him years ago. You sound like your 8-year-old self. So determined, so sure that right will win in the end. Do you think I'm wrong? I hope you are, right? She said. Because if you are wrong, both our peoples will die. There was a soft knock on the door. Princess Zarathul touched a control, and the privacy field dissolved. Captain Hamilton entered, looking tired but determined. Excuse me, Your Highness, the captain said. But we've received new intelligence from our ships. The Korthak main fleet is larger than we thought. Much larger. Princess Zarathul stood up, her royal composure returning instantly. How much larger? Over 3,000 ships, Captain Hamilton said grimly. Including super dreadnoughts that our sensors have never seen before. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. 3,000 ships was more than the entire Valdari fleet. It was more than the human fleet, too. Even working together, they would be badly outnumbered. There is more, Captain Hamilton continued. Our spies say the Korthak have developed new weapons, something they call planet killer, weapons that can destroy entire worlds. Princess Zarathul was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. Then we have no choice. We must ask for help from every ally we can find. The Free Traders, the Crystal Singers, even the Machine Collective. Everyone who does not want to live under Korthak rule. Will they help? Captain Hamilton asked. Some will. Others will hide and hope the storm passes them by. The princess turned to Jake. What do you think, old friend? Can we build an alliance strong enough to stop them? Jake touched the crystal around his neck and thought about everything he had learned in 15 years of military service. He thought about the scared little boy who had made a promise to be strong, and the warrior he had become. I think, he said slowly, that the Korthak are about to learn something they don't expect. What's that? Princess Zarathul asked. Jake smiled, and it was not a gentle smile. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten people who refuse to give up. Humans never surrender, and from what I've seen today, neither do the Valdari. Together we might be stronger than they think. Princess Zarathul nodded. Then we have work to do. Captain Hamilton, can your ship carry a message back to Earth Command? Of course, Your Highness. Good. Tell them that Princess Zarathul of the Valdari Empire formally requests a military alliance with the Terran Defense Corps. Tell them that we are willing to share our technology and fight alongside human soldiers as equals. Captain Hamilton looked surprised. As equals? Your Highness, that's quite a change from this morning's negotiations. Princess Zarathul looked at Jake, and he saw something in her golden eyes that had not been there before. Hope. This morning, I thought humans were primitive and weak, she said. Tonight I learned that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes the strongest people are those who refuse to abandon others, no matter how scared they are. She stood up, every inch the warrior princess again. Jake Morrison, would you and your team be willing to come with me to the Valdari home system? I want my people to see what human courage looks like. Jake did not hesitate. Yes, Your Highness, we'll be honored to serve. Good, because I have a feeling we are going to need all the courage we can find. As they prepared to leave her quarters, Princess Zarathul stopped Jake with a gentle hand on his arm. Remember courage when darkness comes, she said quietly, repeating the words she had spoken to him 15 years ago. I will, Jake replied. But this time I won't be facing the darkness alone. The princess smiled. No, this time, we face it together. Outside the ship, the Valdari home system was the most beautiful thing Jake had ever seen. 3 suns cast rainbow light on crystal cities that floated in space like frozen music. Gardens grew on every surface, and waterfalls flowed between the buildings, defying gravity with Valdari technology. But now this paradise was about to become a battlefield. Jake stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance, watching the largest fleet in human history take position alongside Valdari ships. Over the past 2 weeks, more allies had joined them. Crystal-winged ships from the Singer Collective, strange metal vessels from the Machine Empire, and fast attack craft from dozens of smaller worlds. It was still not enough. The Korthak fleet had arrived 6 hours ago, and their numbers blocked out entire stars. 3,000 warships, including the massive planet-killer weapons that could crack worlds in half. "Final count, sir," reported his communications officer. "We have 843 ships total. They have over 3,000. Jake nodded grimly. The odds were bad, but not impossible. He had fought against worse odds before, just never on this scale. "Jake," came Princess Zarathol's voice over the communicator. "Are you ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be," he replied. The plan they had developed was risky, but it was their only chance. While the main fleets fought in space, Jake would lead, a mixed force of human and Valdari soldiers to board the Korthak flagship and destroy it from the inside. "Remember," the princess said, "you only have to hold for 1 hour. That's how long it will take my strike team to disable their planet-killer weapons." "We'll hold," Jake promised. He turned to his team. Ryan, Kate, and Ben were checking their equipment one final time. They had trained hard for this mission, learning to use Valdari weapons and working with alien soldiers they could not have imagined fighting beside just weeks ago. "You know the plan," Jake told them. "Get in, find the command center, and make as much noise as possible. Keep their attention on us while Princess Zarathul does the real work." "Just like old times," Ryan said with a grin, "except with more aliens and bigger explosions." Kate loaded her rifle with special rounds that could penetrate Korthak armor. "I'm ready to show these monsters what human marksmanship looks like." Ben patted his medical kit. "I've got supplies for humans and Valdari. Let's try to bring everyone home." Their ship shuddered as the battle began outside. Through the windows, Jake could see weapons fire lighting up space like the galaxy's deadliest fireworks show. Human ships darted between larger Valdari vessels, their smaller size and speed making them hard targets. The Allied fleet fought with desperate courage, but they were being slowly pushed back. "Transport launch in 30 seconds, came the pilot's voice. "Hold on tight." Jake's assault team was made up of 20 humans and 20 Valdari soldiers. They had trained together for only 2 weeks, but they fought like they had been allies for years. The Valdari had learned to appreciate human creativity and stubbornness. The humans had learned to respect alien honor and skill. Their transport ship was small and fast, designed to slip through enemy fire and reach the Korthak flagship. Princess Zarathul flew alongside them in her own transport, leading a similar team toward the planet-killer weapons. "Good luck, old friend," she said over the radio as their ships separated. "You too," Jake replied. "See you on the other side." The journey to the Korthak flagship was terrifying. Enemy fighters swarmed around them like angry wasps, firing everything they had. Jake's pilot was one of the best in the human fleet, but even she was having trouble avoiding all the weapons fire. "Hull breach in Section 4, someone shouted. "Shields down to 20%. 2 minutes to target," the pilot called, back grimly. Jake held onto his seat as the ship spun and rolled, dodging missiles and energy beams. Through the chaos, he could see the Korthak flagship growing larger ahead of them. It was enormous, bigger than some space stations, covered with weapons and armor that made it look like a metal mountain floating in space. "There," Jake pointed, to a small opening in the ship's side. "That looks like a docking bay." "I see it," the pilot said. "This is going to be rough." She was right. They crashed through the docking bay doors with sparks flying and metal screaming. The transport ship skidded across the deck, smashing into alien equipment before finally stopping. Jake was the first one out, his rifle ready. The docking bay was full of smoke and confused Korthak soldiers who had not expected visitors. He opened fire, his team spreading out behind him. The Korthak were big, muscular humanoids covered in black armor. They were strong and tough, but they had not faced human tactics before. Jake's team moved fast, using cover and teamwork to outfight enemies who were individually stronger. The Valdari soldiers fought with elegant precision, their energy weapons cutting through Korthak defenses like hot knives through butter. Working together, the mixed team carved their way through the docking bay in minutes. "Which way to the command center?" Jake asked their Valdari team leader, a scarred warrior named Veltar. "Up," Veltar replied, pointing to a series of ramps that led to the ship's upper levels. Korthak always put their commanders as high as possible. They think it makes them safe. "Today, they learn better," Jake said, fighting their way through. The massive ship was like being in a nightmare. The corridors were dark and twisted, designed for creatures larger than humans. Every few minutes they had to fight through groups of Korthak soldiers who were getting more organized as word spread about the invasion. Jake's crystal pendant grew warm against his chest, and he found himself thinking more clearly in the chaos of battle. When enemy soldiers tried to trap them in a dead-end corridor, he spotted a maintenance shaft that led to another level. When Korthak reinforcements blocked their path, he figured out how to use their own ship systems against them. "How do you do that?" Veltar asked after Jake had shut down the artificial gravity in a section, leaving enemy soldiers floating helplessly in the air. "I don't know," Jake admitted. "I just see patterns, I guess." They had been fighting for 40 minutes when they finally reached the command center. It was a vast room filled with screens and control stations where dozens of Korthak officers directed the battle outside. In the center of it all stood the Korthak commander, a massive creature in golden armor, who looked like he could crush a human with his bare hands. "Humans," the commander said in accented English. "I have heard of your species. Weak, short-lived, inferior." "Maybe," Jake replied, raising his rifle. "But we're also really stubborn." The battle for the command center was the hardest fight of Jake's life. The Korthak commander was faster and stronger than any enemy he had ever faced, but Jake had something the alien did not expect. He had friends who would never abandon him. Ryan used his explosives to destroy key systems, while Kate picked off enemy officers with impossible shots from across the room. Ben kept everyone fighting. By treating their wounds and getting them back into action, the Valdari soldiers fought with honor and skill, protecting their human allies even when it put them in danger. Just when it seemed like they might lose, Jake's pendant flared with brilliant light. Suddenly he could see exactly what he needed to do. He rolled under the commander's massive sword, grabbed a Korthak energy weapon, and fired at the main power control. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in red, shadows. And in that moment of confusion, Jake's team struck. When the lights came back on, the command center was theirs. The Korthak commander lay defeated, and Jake's people controlled the systems that ran the massive ship. "Jake!" Princess Zarathul's voice came over the communicator, full of excitement. "We did it! The planet killers are destroyed!" Through the command center's main screen, Jake could see the tide of battle turning. With their flagship crippled and their superweapons gone, the Korthak fleet was falling apart. Some ships were retreating, others were surrendering, and many were being destroyed by the Allied forces. "We won," Ben said in amazement. "We actually won." But Jake was looking at something else on the screens. The Korthak had not given up completely. One of their ships, badly damaged and probably dying, was on a collision course with the largest Valdari city ship. "Princess," he said urgently into the communicator. "You need to get out of there. Now." "What are you talking about?" Jake sent her the information from the flagship sensors. "Kamikaze attack. They're going to crash into your city." There was silence for a moment. Then Princess Zarathul's voice came back, calm and determined. "My people cannot evacuate in time. Someone has to stop that ship." "I'm on my way," Jake said. "No," she replied. "This is my responsibility. My people. My choice." Jake watched on the screen as Princess Zarathul's ship moved to intercept the Korthak kamikaze. Her small vessel looked like a toy next to the massive enemy ship, but she flew straight at it without hesitation. "Zarathul, don't," Jake whispered. The collision lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. The city was safe, But the alien princess who had saved a human child years ago had made the ultimate sacrifice to save her people. Jake felt something break inside his chest. He had lost his savior, his friend, the person who had taught him what courage really meant. But then his pendant grew warm again and he heard her voice one more time, not over the radio but somehow directly in his mind. Remember courage when,